the biggest thing that has happened that you referred to earlier is the money just got insane.
Right.
I mean, you talk about Ohtani getting $1 billion to play baseball.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and then you think of the fact that you go all the way back to, I remember Sandy Koufax in LA holding out to make $100,000 a year.
Right.
So, I mean, that all changes. But the thing that bothers me the most about the changes is, and I'm sure you guys, even when Parker was little, I bet you when those guys walked on the court, there were players that would give you a high five and sign your stuff. And now it's all measured. Okay, he's got to go. And they have like guards that do this. They didn't have that before.
Right.
And that's just a shame.
Mm-hmm.
It really is.
So this is Jon the Jazz Bear. I've known him more as the Jazz Bear. Same with Andy. I've known Andy maybe for a year or two from Mac's Place, Club, whatever we call it. Everybody thinks it's like some secret spot. It's just a bunch of good dudes.
Just because they can't find it on a map.
Yeah. Well, we can give them we can show them where it is.
Yeah.
It's not a secret. So anyway, I'm lucky enough to know these guys and get to know them.
And we're lucky enough to know you. And what an amazing guy you are. I just, Jon and I have talked about this a million times with his wife too, about, how people just show up in our lives. And you've been one of those people, Rick. I mean, just, it doesn't happen.
I'm lucky that I have the ability to do stuff, right? And it's like executing as the Jazz Bear. When I was my kids' age, I was an insurance agent, and I had a vision and a plan. I believed in it, but I didn't know. Now I'm old and I know. There's no doubt that I know, right? I call myself the insurance preacher because when I start, my mind, it can only think about how screwed up this industry is and that it needs to change. And, whether your house burns down or you get sued or you have a medical issue, that's not the time to be figuring this stuff out. That's why everybody makes such bad decisions. They actually don't have a plan. The plan is buy the cheapest, and I won't have a claim. And I tell people in Florida, you're dumb, because hurricanes have already happened here. They're going to keep happening, and you just have to look at a map. Parker, my own son, the name of this podcast is I Hate Insurance. So he buys this house up river by, what's the name of it, Park? The Pass, Wolf Creek Pass. And he gets a quote from our girl. I think it was like $8,000 run the park. And he said, that's way too much, right? So 3 months later, the wildfire's right there. And that's when people make good decisions, is when, it happens. Well, of course, at that point, an insurance company sets moratoriums, right? If a storm's approaching Florida, nobody will write you. Oh, except me. But you'll pay more because you didn't make the right decision to have a long-term plan, right? So to me, everybody buys policies, and what you really need is a partnership. You need somebody who's with you good times and bad, and we learned that on the playground when we were kids. All of this stuff, I didn't go to college. So when something doesn't make sense to me, I've always questioned it, that's not right, that it can't be that way. And obviously there's a lot of educated people in the insurance business and in the legal business. And I would say most of them are practicing. They're not in the real game. They're not risking their own money. They don't have to live through the nightmares. And the ones that I do know in Florida that are insurance professionals, then they don't do it the right way for themselves either.
How did you come up with the concept, though?
Well, I got I insured people who couldn't get insurance, helicopter ski guides, rafting. I got to know them. One guy did whitewater kayaking school. And I'm like, dude, that sounds dangerous. So I bought a kayak and I went on an 11-day trip with him and learned how to kayak. Now, I didn't keep kayaking, right? But I saw that it was safe, and with professionals, the risk isn't what people envision it is, right?
But when you did it, aren't you looking at, there's a reason nobody else is doing it? And when you put your foot in that water.
Right. Well, but it's a timing thing too, so when you tell people, like when you tell me I can't do something, that motivates me. So, when you start canceling people in Florida's homeowners insurance, one of the reasons you cancel them is because you're too cheap and they're a shitty risk. California doesn't manage their forests. They don't have enough water. They don't have enough water pressure. They're all green. And so, it's like a bad situation. Now, 5-6 years ago, when the market changed, what people that don't have insurance do? They do a lot different stuff. They mitigate their own risk. They cut the bushes around, right? Before you tell them to cut down a tree that's growing next to their house that's a fire hazard, they'd say, I'm not cutting down my tree. I like trees too. I don't want to cut them down. But the choice is, do you like your house more or your tree more? Right? And we can plant new trees a lot cheaper than you can build new houses. So, people's mindset changes. If you offer people cheap insurance, just like a cheap roof, you're going to pay more for it in the long run. Right. So, and again, a roof, it's not a big deal. When your roof blows off your house, it shouldn't be a bigger nightmare because you have a big deductible you can't pay. And, kind of the old construction of insurance, it's kind of like during inflation, they said they shrunk the size of, Snickers bars. And don't you think insurance companies have been doing that for 100 years? And they've been growing in a direction, corporate direction, that anything that Elon Musk found in the government that is total waste, you don't think that goes on in the insurance business, do you? I guarantee it does. All the advancements in technology and stuff that haven't made it more efficient and effective, and that's because there's a bunch of old, big, lazy corporations that don't want to change. So, buyers need a partner. And again, that's why I formed my own insurance company, because after 15 years, I was like, I don't want to argue with these guys anymore. Right? Here's all my chips. Let's go, prove it. And, my goal was to be 100 million. Now I do over 400 million. And the iceberg is just starting to break up as far as catastrophes, fires, earthquakes in New Jersey. Oh, that's not covered by insurance either, by the way.
Right.
And it's like, I want insurance that covers everything. My house is damaged. You don't save money by giving me half a solution, right? That's going to create litigation and all kinds of problems. So tell people, one of my shirts says, I don't compete with stupid. So when they say, Chubb's only $4,000, I'm like, yeah, well, they're stupid. And they're not giving you earthquake. They're not giving you flood. No earth movement is covered at all. Mudslides is what happens here. And, if it's a mudslide in a small neighborhood with 3 houses, nobody cares, right? The nightmare of those 3 families is big. When it's a big storm and it's thousands of people, like Maui fires, they're on TV saying, where's the government? And I'm like, what's the government ever done right? They come to town, they overpromise, and then they create all these systems that don't do anybody any good. What they should be looking for is the person that wrote their insurance to show up and write a check, because that's really all you need, right? And you probably are going to have to pay more because the market has gone up now. That's kind of part of being a good insurance company, is knowing that when shit hits the fan, I can't be looking for cheaper, because that'll cost me more money in the long run. If you're not in your house for 2 years, you got loss of use, all of the things, and then you're going to get sued, and they're going to try and,
My
go
younger
for the
brother has a
gusto.
house in Pacific Palisades that 3 houses away, everything's gone.
Right.
And he had that thing rented for like $25,000 a month.
Right. Well,
No, he doesn't.
time is money.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's talk about jazz years, and when did you become the Jazz Bear? How did they look for a gymnast? Were you at the UAU? What's the backstory?
Yeah, so I was in the CBA and for a number of years before, but I just sent out a resume to all the NBA teams, and that year that I did it just happened to be a year that the Sacramento Kings, Seattle Sonics, and Jazz were looking for mascots, and they had a 3-team tryout out here in Utah, and came out here for tryouts and got a job offer from all 3 teams, and didn't call anybody back like an idiot. And thank heavens, Grant Harrison, our vice president of game operations, tracked me down, and because back then, before cell phones, so he had to call our houses and called the farm, and then had to call out to my sisters, and then got a hold of me, and he was just like, "Did you take a job offer with one of the other teams?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "So what are you doing?" I said, "I don't know." So I was a small farm boy, and I was afraid to move.
You were at a CBA team.
Yep.
What team?
The Fargo Fever was my first one, and then I went up to the National Basketball League up in Canada, which was the Winnipeg Thunder, and then the Sioux Falls Skyforce in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
And were you a bear?
Nope. So I remember Sioux Falls was a wolf. Winnipeg was a polar bear, so I was kind of a bear. And then the Fargo Fever was a bobcat, which was a horrible costume. But that was just kind of where you started, and mascotting really was just starting to kind of come into things. And it was really the Phoenix Gorilla that kind of kicked open the door for everybody. And,
oh, right.
And you remember the Phoenix Gorilla. And so something I didn't realize, and you probably didn't know, he was the mascot for the NBA. Did you know that?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Like the league. And he told me that, and I actually found a picture, and he's wearing an NBA logo, and he was the NBA logo or the NBA mascot.
He was something special because Benny was there before him.
Yeah.
Benny, the bull in Chicago was the first mascot.
But all the other mascots were just kind of pat heads and shake hands. He was the first one to come in and dunk and tumble, and so he kicked open the door for everybody. He's the godfather.
Raised where? Born and raised where?
East Grand Forks, Minnesota, up in a little farm, and raised by my dad was 62 when I was born, so he did not understand what kids did in high school. All I had to do was be home for chores and work on the farm, and that's all he cared about. So.
Right.
But yeah, other than that, and then I ended up moving out here, and I told my fiance at the time that I said, I'm going to move out there and I'll be back in a year. And because I didn't think, I was just like, I'm just going to give this a shot. And been 30 years, still here. Right. Love Utah.
And your fiance, and you moved here, now wife.
Yep, now wife and 3 daughters. And it's been amazing. And they're, my daughters one of them is married, and I have 2 other ones that are probably on the way to getting married here pretty soon. And so it's been fun. Utah is my
And the one that's
new
married
home.
is going to have a little boy, so he's going to be a grandpa.
Grandpa in December.
So he knows how much fun that is. So do I. But I have great grandchildren, so.
Right.
So I'm excited about that. You have great grandchildren? I didn't know that.
3.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
You have great grandchildren?
No. I have one, Cash, Jay Lindsey. Parker's the first son to have
Congratulations,
a baby.
Parker.
Yeah, that's a fun deal, right? And his name is Cash.
Yeah.
Oh, it's
There
a boy?
you go.
Yeah.
I'm finally getting a boy too. So I had 3 girls. My wife's sister had girls. All my friends growing up had girls. Everybody had girls. So I finally get a boy to try, and I don't know what the hell I'm going to do with a boy. Because I can do a ponytail with one hand almost, but I'll figure out how to raise a boy. It'll be fun.
Yeah.
I hope. I'm kind of bummed though, because her husband is a big hunter and his whole family hunts. So I know he's going to go out and hunt. I'm not a hunter. So I'm just going to be like, oh, just the grandpa that can throw baseball, maybe.
We can make you a hunter real fast. We take you up to Wolf Creek and get you a big elk and a lot of meat.
I'm in.
Yeah.
If it puts me in good graces with him, I guarantee he's going to be a big hunter growing up. So,
Right.
But yeah, I'm excited. December.
So tell us about the outfit and how, maybe it evolved over the years, because I think you have a company that makes outfits, right?
Yep. I have a company that after I got done, I was trying to figure out what to do and thought making mascots would be kind of the thing. And I do some consulting. We just, consulted with some other colleges trying to help their mascot programs. But my suit really didn't evolve that much. It stayed pretty the same.
It's got to be hot and stuff. Certainly,
Super hot.
In Utah in the sun compared to inside. And so I would have thought over time you figured out ways to make it less painful.
No,
You just had lots of padding.
No, actually, because I was bigger back then. Like when I was performing, I was 222, and I didn't have any padding in it.
Did you have like hockey elbow pads? Or
because
just a helmet?
It would just help. Yep, just a helmet, just a hockey helmet inside that helmet or that head, and then it was pretty much just the costume. And then if I put pads on and I tried to do this, that all I was doing was adding more bulk, more weight, and more heat.
Right.
So it was just me, and I tried to keep it as so that it looked the same. So it never really changed that much.
Right.
But like the head, not many people know is I had it for 15 years. You know that?
Yeah.
They couldn't recreate it. They tried 5 times to rebuild it and give it to me. And I remember I looked at it and I was like, this looks nothing like my original head. So one of them, became Little Bear's head. Another one became a head for one of our dummy dolls, another head. And we just use them for different things. But I had a head for 15 years until the latex started falling apart. And then went in and I was like, we need to make a new head. So we sat down and I was in there every day tweaking it to make sure that it looked like the other head. And then I used that one for 10 years.
So the big question is, did the bear ever talk?
More than I should have.
Really?
Yeah. I never talked to regular fans or anything like that, but out on the court, I talked to the referees and players and stuff like that. But I try to keep, Andy's got a story when I first walked into his office. I did an appearance there and he came walking in and I was freaking out because I never wanted anybody to know who I was.
Well, the story about that was, I remember dates. So November 4th.
He's like Rain Man when it comes to dates. I'm telling you.
I'm the opposite, by the way.
So November 4th, 1994, we were season ticket holders. My seats were in the 14th row, not down on the floor, but, and we had moved over from the Salt Palace. And I knew all of the people because of Frank Layden and Carl and John and Thurl and all those guys before he was there. And my wife and I happened to be there. It was Lakers exhibition game in 1994 on November 4th. And they lowered him down in this big crate. I don't know if you were there, and let him out. And he just went wild. And I immediately ran to Jay Francis, who was the VP of promotions. And I went, first appearance, my place. So the next Saturday, the 12th, he made his first appearance. So they come in and they say, well, where can we change? And I said, well, go up in my office. And so he goes to change. And I'm not kidding you. I walk into my office and it was like you walked in on a naked woman. He's like, but that fact was something that we discussed over and over and over again. Like I'd bring people to meet him that we're raising money for our charity.
Right.
That we did virtually the whole time he was the bear. Take little kids Christmas shopping, and now we take military families Christmas shopping, and we've never stopped. We didn't do it for 1 year during COVID, but other than that, we did it with masks. We did it where people had to come. But there are actually people that worked at the Jazz for years that did not know he was a Jazz Bear. And during, I think it was the 97 finals, Jim Gray from NBC is there, and he's talking about Jon Absey. He's what was it, skis you were going down on? He's going down the deal practicing on skis. He's never done it before. And so he's going to do that during the finals.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the aisle that we were on is the one that he used most of the time for all that stuff.
Right.
And I was right on the aisle. But he seriously guarded his anonymity in a way that was unbelievable, because at the end, it's like you and I discussed, Rick. People know who the bear is.
Right.
They don't necessarily know who this is. That's why 3 governors named it Utah Jazz Bear Day. But the most important one was the one that took place just this last April, and that was Jon Absey Day.
Right.
And we went back. I went back when he was inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame.
Right.
And we had a wonderful governor. John Huntsman was the governor then.
Right.
And I've got video. I've got a photo of John and John having a silly string fight in the governor's office with the governor wearing his jersey. So that anonymity can be a detractor after he left.
Did you walk around like without the bear suit on and they thought you were just another guy that came in and out of the office and stuff? So you had like 2 worlds.
I did. I honestly,
and nobody ever said, I think I know those eyes or something.
Some people did, but honestly, it was like Miley Cyrus in Hannah Montana.
Right.
It was like, because, you know, I'd go out and do stuff, and I'd go through the office, and everybody'd ask like what I do, and I'd be like, I work for game operations, you know,
Right.
and I did, and I knew enough about it. I could always answer a question,
Right.
but a lot of people didn't put 2 and 2 together. It was really weird.
So how about the name Joey Crawford? Was he one of the guys you yelled at all the time?
Oh, he yelled at me.
Really?
Yeah. I remember Joey one time, this is way back in the day, he made a bad call, and I grabbed, you remember where Doc Anderson used to sit? So right in that row, and I grabbed this guy's glasses and I held him up to Joey like, that was a bad call, you know?
Right.
Dude, he lit me up like crazy. And he was like, you never do that again. And I was leaning back into the crowd, and the crowd was holding me, and they're yelling at Joey to leave me alone, because I was just, but yeah,
No,
he was a great ref. He was a good guy.
He was the most
Most
hated. I saw
hated.
him in Philadelphia once when I was in Philadelphia going just through, security line and stuff. And we hated him when he was there, but you actually liked him and respected him because he was kind of a part of the whole deal, and he tried to do a good job. But there were some games in the Delta Center where he was pivotal.
I always heard it was Jerry that he didn't like that much.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because of how vocal Jerry was. But he was a nice, because I'd go in and talk to the refs before every game and just kind of tell them what I was going to do and if I could use them as a skit. And Joey was a really nice guy. He really was.
Right.
So,
Well, haven't you had a couple of refs that have come to see you since you got sick?
I have a bunch of them. Gary Zielinski is one of them. He's actually been up on my roof watching the sunrise with me just the other day. He crawled up there. So, but yeah, no, the referees were really actually pretty cool. When it changed was probably mid 2000s, I think it was like 2013, 14. And the NBA said the referees couldn't mess around with mascots anymore. And that's when it kind of changed, and they became robotic, and that fun kind of left, but the refs were cool.
Well, Jerry was the one that I had the most interaction with, and after they let him go, I always, I think that Larry did the right thing by letting Jerry manage the personalities, right? Then when Larry was gone and Darren Williams challenged Jerry, ownership. I mean, I remember thinking, so you lose Jerry and you lose Darren like within 2 weeks, because right after that, Darren left and went to New Jersey. So, and I felt bad for Jerry. He told me that he could have gone to Portland, and he turned it down, and he wished that he would have. But, I think with, really the exit of Jerry, that's when, the players all got big heads, and you kind of need somebody that they respect. And he was the perfect dude because of his history, right? He was the scrappy guy in the NBA that made it further. And so not a big talker, but, we went to the Final Four a couple of times, and, it was like at Dallas Jerry's stadium there, which, you know, first year we went, I think it was Atlanta, and we got good seats, right? And then every year they got worse and worse, and then you're up at the top, you know, and it's the people they know they got, they're trying to get the new guys in. But, you know, we saw Mike Brown, and I mean, every player that ever played pretty much goes to the Final Four. And so he would just get like bombarded. Coach, you know, and you could tell everybody loved him, even if maybe they didn't like him as a coach, because I think he pushed them to be the best they could be.
He definitely respected him. You know what I mean? And the thing with him, though, is he didn't let the inmates run the prison. You know,
right.
Him and Popovich were just like that.
Right. Right.
But I still remember that day, and you know, with what happened, and just the fact that, you know, Darren just didn't respect him, and you know, I still remember, you know, hearing about the fact that, you know, Jerry was pissed off for the sheer fact that he was calling plays, you know, and Darren was just running his own stuff, and they went to the locker room, and I don't know, I'm still shocked that it went that way, but I know that they thought that if they let Darren go, they were losing out on money, and they thought, well, if we let Jerry go, we can get something for Darren, and that's what they did. Is they, you know, but they missed out. They totally did not look at that right. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Good fundamentals, right? And so again, I think Larry was genius to be the owner, but he would never tell a coach what to do. And you know, maybe that was something Frank kind of laid the track on, was, you know, I'll be your coach, but you know, I gotta run the zoo, right? I can't have them like a mom and dad situation where.
Well,
you know,
and Frank was brilliant in that he knew who he wanted to be the coach, so he quit on purpose when he quit to assure Jerry that position.
Right.
And also Phil. I mean, I don't know if you know this, but Phil Johnson coached the Kings when they were Kansas City and Omaha. They were in two different cities. They actually they were called the Kansas City Omaha Kings before they moved to Sacramento. And Phil was actually NBA Coach of the Year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And Jerry had, then they had history together in Chicago. But Phil, I mean, once again, Frank was so much to both John and I. And when he passed away, and John was not feeling well, when we went to the funeral, it was like he was holding court. I mean, all of the old coaches, Gordy Chiesa, Phil Johnson, John Stockton, Nada Stockton, everybody came, filed by to talk to Thurl Bailey, Rich Kelly, all those guys came by to talk to John, and all the broadcasters. I mean, Craig Bowlerjack and David James and all those people. And I mean, people that you had a chance to meet the other night, Kent Crawford. Those guys can't spin at Channel 2 for 42 years. I mean, we're talking history. But, you know, I can tell you from personal experience, when he came to the Jazz, I was already pretty well ensconced, and I was doing Thurl Bailey's basketball camp because of my car wash, and my nephew, Max, and because I was one of those guys, I had girls. Then my brother-in-law and his wife had a little boy, and I said, when he's old enough, he's mine. And so, but we did that, and we had the opportunity, but we ran that camp, and this guy, I mean, we'd do 3 different sessions, 3 different age groups. And I'd call on all my favorites. Carl would come and be a guest. I did some consulting in the car wash business for Charles Oakley of the Knicks. He came out. David Robinson. We had heavy duty guys there. But how I got paid was, I told Thurl, I'll go out and raise the money, and then you'll run the camp. And it was the best camp period, much better than junior jazz. I know I'm prejudiced, but the point is, and this guy came every single session and would do his histrionics. We'd go up on the back of the backboard and go down through the net and just blow these kids away. But we had these little Make-A-Wish kids and stuff like that, and it was such a magical time. I mean, and that's what you and I have talked about, that Rick, is how cool that was. But I mean, my wife and I used to walk in through security, walk into the wives' lounge, hang out with Kay Malone, and it's her birthday today. Nada Stockton and Kim Russell and Victoria Foster and Stacy Hornacek and Heidi Ostertag, and then just go up to our seats right before the national anthem.
Right.
And, everything's changed.
Yeah.
But the magic about this guy was through all that, he was always, the thing that's just blown me away about Jon as an individual is through all the time, he was always willing to give. It was like he created this mascot conference and they'd bring all the mascots in.
Right.
And that photograph you saw the other day, there's probably been 15 mascots, maybe more, that have come to pay homage to Jon to say, hey, what can I do for you? I mean, they cleaned his gutters out. They helped him work in the garden. But if you talk to these people and you ask them what he meant and what he means to them,
Right.
the unfortunate thing was what you talked about, is his anonymity was so guarded
Right.
that now we're out there going, this is the guy that made magic for you.
Right.
How can you help us?
For a long
Help
time,
him.
right.
I got to find a $5 bill to pay Andy for that. That's nice. I got to somewhere in my pocket to tell you.
But that being said, there was so much magic in that. And I was fortunate. I went to the induction at the Mascot Hall of Fame. And Dan Mears, who is the Kansas City Chiefs Wolf,
Right.
and Adam Hardy was there, and Bob Wolf. As I had the secret, I got to meet all these guys and hang out with these guys for a few days. And there was only me and his wife, and was it Corey that was there? A friend of his, and Grant Harrison, who's the guy that hired him.
Right.
And Grant has been just, I mean, I send out 57 different texts that are updates. You get a special one. You and Brady get a special one that's more focused on what you do and Reagan and all that stuff that I don't share with everybody because everybody wants to know how's he doing.
Right.
And I don't want to put that on him, but it is amazing. The people that respond to this, these are the people that receive this are people like Carl Malone, John Stockton, Greg Hornacek,
Right.
Jeff Hornacek, Greg Ostertag, Greg Foster, Ronnie. It's just a huge list of who's who. But do you know what the biggest thing is? You weren't able to make it when we honored Jon up at the state capitol.
Right.
But you know who showed up? Randy Rigby showed up. Grant Harrison showed up. All the old guard.
Oh.
Tim Howells, all of those guys.
Right.
The old guard that you knew,
Right.
that I knew, and it's just changed. Everything else is metrics. It's all this BS. It's like I'm a huge Dodger fan, but I grew up with Sandy Koufax pitching 9 innings. Now you got a guy going with the no-hitter into 6 innings, and they're changing pitchers.
Right.
I don't understand it.
Yeah. No, and again, I don't think most sports, during Black Lives Matter and players kneeling on the sideline and stuff, I lost all interest. I mean, it's like they don't realize, or maybe they don't give people credit that, died and fought for the country and our way. And it's like, that's the biggest thing that we risk losing is what people died and fought for.
Right.
And so, that these stars that are, the luckiest guys on the planet, in the greatest country.
Oh, without a doubt.
They don't lead the way. And that's sad. And that kind of, all this high school, college stuff now where they're getting paid a lot of money, which is great.
This guy served in Desert Storm. People don't even know that.
Oh.
He did his service in the Army. I mean, we're talking about when I sat down with him on our charity and I said, I want to do a second. We had this wonderful family that gave us a lot of money one year. And I said, I'd like to do a different one. We always take the little kids, but I'd like to do, it was right after COVID and we were having a real tough time with the bus company we used. And everything changes, but you have to adapt. But we're talking about him. And I said, look, let's do active duty military and wounded warriors and all that. And I'll tell you, I've been doing this. This will be 35 years. And I must tell you that we get incredible gratitude from little kids and magical stories that we've got. Taken over 15,000 children Christmas shopping over the last 30 years. That's pretty impressive.
Amazing, right?
But we've taken military families for, this will be the 4th year. And it's a different kind of Christmas shop. But Elias came to one of them with us.
Right.
And it's a whole different ballgame. Every single one texted back or emailed back or said something, pulled us aside and said, if it wasn't for you guys, I don't know what we'd do.
Right.
And that's the way I feel about you and how you just jumped in to help with Jon.
Well, well, I'm blessed to be able to help in a little way. So let's throw out like some names. Like you said some of them, like Greg Ostertag. Do you know where these guys are and what they're doing? And who was the funniest? He had to be one of the funniest.
He was the funniest and probably one of the most down to earth guys. Because when you'd go and talk to a player, like there was a person, they're the locker room persona, on the court persona, the out in public, persona. Greg was the same no matter where you met him. If you were in the locker room, if you're out at a restaurant or on the court, he was Greg Ostertag, and he was the same no matter what. Every other player, they were different, The locker room, they were always kind of themselves because it was kind of their safe space. But out in public, they were always different. On the court, totally different. But yeah, Ostertag was he was my favorite, and it was fun because he showed up at all my kids' birthdays, but he was just a really fun, down to earth guy, and I think that's why he got such a bad rap. People didn't understand that. He was just a kid. I mean, all those guys are kids. Everybody thinks that there's these adults. They're 22 years old, and he came in and he was good. A good basketball player, but he liked having fun and he enjoyed what he was doing. But he didn't take it too serious.
Well, the other thing, doing it for so long, I would Jeff Hornacek was on Phoenix, and he would always kill us with the 3-pointer. And then when we get him, right, that's when we got really close. But he was wounded when we got him. He would drag his leg around, and he would still do as good as anybody else. But, I just remember how much you hated him when he's on the other team,
and how much you loved him
when he's on your team.
Well,
so
the other thing is,
how many other players do you think of like that? Or you didn't have that? You loved them all. You didn't have the hate for Lambeer and Isaiah Thomas was the other one where, there was that real rivalry. But we had them with Sonics, with Kemp. We had him with the Kings with, I can't remember, Weber was on the Kings one day.
And then Vlade too.
Yeah, but there's not stuff going. Maybe it goes on nowadays, but I don't pay attention.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that has happened that you referred to earlier is the money just got insane.
Right.
I mean, you talk about Ohtani getting $1 billion to play baseball.
Uh-huh.
I mean, and then you think of the fact that you go all the way back to, I remember Sandy Koufax in LA holding out to make $100,000 a year.
Right.
So, I mean, that all changes. But the thing that bothers me the most about the changes is, and I'm sure you guys, even when Parker was little, I bet you when those guys walked on the court, there were players that would give you a high five and sign your stuff. And now it's all measured. Okay, he's got to go. And they have guards that do this. They didn't have that before.
Right.
And that's just a shame. Mm. It really is.
I remember Greg Foster. There was an older couple, Steve and Minnie were their names, and they'd always come down and bring us cookies and pop before the games. And I remember they had asked Greg Foster to come over for dinner one night, and he did. You would never have that happen in today's world. And but that was just the difference. Back in the 90s, the league, the players, everybody was approachable. And you had real fans, and it's not that way anymore. Now it's just.
So how much did you go to other, venues like LA or were invited into that? Was it different? Because I think in the beginning when the Jazz came, it was more, I would say, folksy, right? There was like Minnie and, just the old people, they were there to watch the Jazz and be part of the team. And, I think you get that in LA, but it's Drake or, some famous person wanting to be on TV and they want to put him on TV. So, and I think I've been to one Jazz game a year for the last couple of years, and it is different. It's not the same, but I guess nothing is. This valley's not the same anymore. It's like small little LA with, getting around and traffic. And again, that's, just the old, this used to be way out in the city, right? 70th South was like, they didn't even have 215. That's where I used to ride my dirt bike. And you knew a freeway was coming there, but, so it's definitely expanded a lot, changed. So
we traveled a ton in the early days. I mean, he did appearances in other cities. And then was it after you created the mascot convention that you do those birthday parties? So they'd do these birthday parties and like 10 mascots would show up for a birthday party.
Well, I remember at Jazz games and other games, you would all get together, right?
Yep.
Was that to do with your group?
Just
you did
birthday
it,
party.
teams?
Yeah. It was just, it was just a way for us to, it was a way for us to get together and party, technically. But we'd get together and we'd, we called them birthday parties, and then we'd have them sponsored. So it was just another sponsor element for the sales team.
Right.
But we would get together and work each other's games and just hang out with each other. Just a way for us to all to get together.
But you would come to the game together too when they did it, right?
Yep. And, it was a ton of fun. It's always fun hanging out with those guys. But the thing that's funny is, we all started together and we all got older. And I remember we would show up on a Friday, and on Sunday, the game was on Saturday. Sunday, I'd be going home and I probably got 4 hours of sleep the whole weekend, right?
Right.
Now, back in the day, we'd get together, we're older, and it'd be like 9 o'clock. Oh, I'm just going to go to bed, And so,
Well,
we
and
changed.
The cool part is there's like Testament, Jon. Kenny Solomon had 2 sons become mascots.
Really?
And they gave him more credit than they gave their dad.
Very
So,
cool. So how many teams have mascots in the NBA? All of them, or
Nope.
not?
Like New York doesn't, LA doesn't, Golden State doesn't, New Jersey doesn't, but everybody else does.
Huh. And what about other? Is it like? I know that smaller teams tend to have it more, right? Like B-League baseball teams and stuff. Some of the major league teams have them, right?
Yep.
Baseball, but not all again.
legendary ones like the Philly Fanatic and
Right.
they're and the San Diego Chicken was inducted either right before you or
Right before me.
Yeah, at the mascot hall.
But the
of Fame.
Bears got to be the best known mascot.
Oh
No,
overall.
I love you for that, but no, the famous chicken. The famous chicken is really well known. A great story to talk about him. I'm not
the San Diego Chicken.
San
right?
Diego, yeah. But then after the San Diego Chicken, he became the famous chicken because he won the rights for that character.
Huh.
Ray Kroc sued him.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
He said, "You can't."
As a Kentucky colonel, you couldn't help out with that.
All 3 of us are Kentucky colonels, just so you know that.
So, but
There you
that wouldn't
go.
have helped.
But yeah, the chicken was something totally unique. I used to go to games just to watch him, and that's, I think, the first realization I had of the power that this guy had was how many people came to the game to watch him and what he was going to do. Like, they'd bring their family. The kids didn't give a rip except for him.
Yeah, no, when you would climb up the railings and do all your, mingling with the crowd, you were like mob. You could have stopped anywhere and done anything to anybody. Sometimes you did.
And they stopped him. They basically said, look, man, you're taken away from the game. You have to pull back. You can't do this at this time. You can't do it. So every break, he was like chomping at the bit to get out and do his stuff. And exchanging that with other mascots and doing videos. Once the video thing came in, those guys would come in the summer and I'd call them and say, hey, can you come do this? I can't. We're filming. We've got Crunch in town from the Timberwolves and the Gorilla from Phoenix. And these guys would do it for each other. And they'd share ideas. And it was so much more than just a guy in a suit.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, and I think I talked to you about this the other night, when in 2004, he had been mascot for 10 years. And I went to a couple of my really good friends that had connections. And I said, we need to make it Utah Jazz Bear Day. And there were, and I can tell you everybody that was in the room, and I actually found the photographs when it was Jon, and I told him, bring your wife and kids. And he goes, no. His anonymity meant that much to him. I said, nobody's going to know. They see your wife and kids. They don't marry them to you. But we kept them in the governor's office. They didn't go out for the announcement and stuff. Neither did his wife's best friend, Diana, or your sister and brother-in-law. But the point is, Larry Miller, I invited him on purpose. And I invited Grant Harrison, but they decided that Grant shouldn't be there. So Denny Haslam, Jay Francis, and Larry Miller from the Jazz were the part that came. And the governor she was an amazing woman. And she talked about how much she loved watching him because, no offense, I mean, it is the Utah Jazz, but for her, it was more fun to watch him. She said that.
Right.
Larry Miller, when he made his speech, said, I'm going to protect the man in the suit.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you this. People like him come along once in a lifetime. And the man in the suit has a heart as big as they get.
Right.
And he talked about, how he actually fought to do charity stuff because they wanted to, sales department, they want him to be they want to send him to birthday parties and stuff. San Antonio, do they have 2 or 3 mascots?
3.
They had 3 mascots. 2 went and did ribbon cuttings and birthday parties and stuff, and they charged for that.
Right.
He refused to do that with charities.
Right.
I mean, he has a very good friend who, I won't mention his name, but he happened to be the Houston mascot. And I was there when the 2 of them were talking, and the guy goes, buddy, you're missing the opportunity. Charge everybody. Right?
Yep.
And so when Larry Miller said that, he said, when this man in this suit retires, the character will retire too. So the way they've treated him, the lack of respect, I mean, look at, you had during the playoffs, he had an invitation from Indiana to do the finals. He was back at the Mayo Clinic, and you know that. And the Minnesota Timberwolves brought him on the floor.
Oh.
The Sacramento Kings saluted him with a big giant sign on their Jumbotron saying what he was going through.
Right.
And the Jazz have done diddly, which is totally unfortunate because the sad part is what we talked about the other night is that people start believing that the suit is the character, and it's not.
Right.
As a matter of fact, when he was inducted into the Mascot Hall of Fame, the Houston mascot put his name and all that stuff in his stuff. And I'm reading the program, and there was no brick and mortar then. It was in Philadelphia. The Mascot Hall of Fame's in Indiana. And I'm reading this thing, and it says, the Utah Jazz Bear was born in the Wasatch Range. And I was like, are you kidding me? You're not putting anything down there. And that's how much his anonymity meant to him and how unimportant credit was to him.
Yeah.
And that's what you and I have talked about a million
I owe
times.
$10 for that one there.
Right.
That's a $10 talk right there.
Well, you know, so I'm involved in this boat racing thing, and it's got a 120-year history.
Yep.
Right. And I told one guy last
Like how you call it a
week,
boat thing.
boat racing,
Boat
right? And, you know, all these guys are great. It's grassroots,
Yep.
right? And that's why I love it. It's not that they don't get trophies. You know, if they do, they're stupid plastic $5 ones like you're going to give Andy. And, you know, so they do it for the love, the competition, and all this stuff. And, you know, so everybody's mad at me because I supported us leaving and just forming our own racing group. And, you know, we've done it for 4 or 5 years now. And, you know, the guy's like, oh, you know, I'm like, dude, I love the history, right? But when it changes so much that you can't stand it anymore, it's kind of like Sears Roebuck. You know, you ordered everything on Sears Roebuck in the Sears store, right? But they get so out of date and force you to do stuff in a way where they don't have to evolve, and that's where you need to move on. And, you know, as you get older, you only have so much time. Time is your most valuable asset. So why do you want to deal with, you know, people who don't get it, don't reciprocate, you know, move on and create a better place for you and them, or you can just whine all the time. And, you know, some of the guys that left with us were the biggest whiners. And now, you know, we've run our second event. After the first event, this guy that I thought was a good partner, you know, all he did was bitch and complain and left. And now he's back with those guys. And again, I don't care, right? But I just need to know, right? And in life, that's what most people need to know is, what are you going to do when the chips are down? Because what you do when there's no pressure on doesn't really matter. Nobody ever has a claim. But when they have a claim, are you going to step up and take care of them the way you want to be taken care of or not? And that applies to, you know, sports you go watch, sports you involve yourself in, people you spend time with. And so, you know, when I was Parker's age, somebody that you're impressed with, you know, you think, oh, I want that account. And then 10 years later, it's like, that was the stupidest thing I ever did. That was the worst account I ever could have written. But, you know, you don't know that stuff from school or books. You know it from life and life experiences. So anyway, the Utah Jazz wouldn't be where they are today or anything without the Bear and Jon and Carl. Jon and Carl, you know, were the athletes, but you were as much as an athlete as they were. And I
thank
think
you.
they recognize it. And
Appreciate that.
certainly a lot of old people like me know what you did, and we appreciate it. So happy to do anything we can to be with you and stick with you.
Thank you. I appreciate you. I really do.
Appreciate you making the effort to come.
No, thanks for having me on.
No. So anyway, you're getting the sauna, and you're going to have lots of good stuff, good news going forward.
I'm hoping so. Yep. I'm hoping it's all good news from here on out. So
Once again, Rick, you've been a godsend. And I mean, like that first time we came here, and the first thing you did is got up, got your phone, got Reagan on the phone, and put him on the phone with Jon. And
well, that's, I mean, you know, again, I just know good people. And
yeah,
I
Reagan's a
think
good
I
person.
told you at the same time, you know, some people don't believe, whatever. You got to make your own decisions. But I follow his advice because I trust him, right?
Yep.
And that's most.
and with some of the crazy
doctors I
stuff you
don't
do and you're
trust.
feeling good, that's the biggest thing,
Right.
right?
Yeah, and you got to feel like you have the freedom to make decisions that you want to. And so, you know, I think he is a leader in his field. And obviously you want to have availability to every resource to, you know, make sure you have everything you need to get through a tough time. So that's the goal. And we want everybody to help out as much as they can, but we all just do what we can do. And I'm happy to do my part.
Well, thank you for doing your part. I appreciate it. I really, really do.
So we got to figure out a time to get you up to the gooseneck preserve and let you hit a couple of golf balls.
If he's feeling good enough on Sunday, maybe.
Yeah. Well, again, anytime you feel good, you want to drive up to the mountains. You can just hang out at the man cave or the pool.
It's badass,
you can grab
buddy.
a club and
That'd be
hit
awesome.
a couple of balls, and you can drive around Parker's ATVs.
Parker,
Well,
you can,
I'm not sure
you can
they're
drive around.
Parker's. He buys them, but I think I pay for them. Yeah.
Well,
That would be awesome.
I tell you what, we had Lex and Dr. Doug fly up the other night, and they were just like, "Oh, goodness, look!"
Andy introduces me to all these movie stars. You're probably the first star. Now I know Balance of Nature. I mean, I see his commercial
Everywhere.
more than anybody.
Everywhere.
The only people I see more than him is lawyers. I know a lot of lawyers from TV.
Well, but
And I'll
see,
give you a
but-
piece of advice. The lawyers on TV aren't the scary ones.
which reminds me, did you get the framed picture back? The
Oh, yeah. No, I got to go get it. I'm putting it right there. It's going to be the backdrop of the podcast.
That's
Have
awesome.
you seen what he gave me?
No.
I gave him this. I you know how I go and buy all this stuff in all these charity auctions, and my brother's a lawyer, and I bought this deal, and it's like 4 feet by 4 feet by a pretty well-known artist named Todd Goldman that he does stuff that looks like a little kid painted it.
It's a stick figure type
Yeah,
thing.
he says, it says it's okay to lie. I'm a lawyer,
That's awesome.
so I gave it to Rick.
All right. No,
But
I got to go get that, by the way. I forgot. Thanks for reminding me.
Okay.
But it is framed, and you'll be proud of the job.
oh yeah, I'm sure those guys do great work.
Right.
But once again, God bless you, Rick, and thank you so much.
No, I'm
For
blessed,
this guy.
blessed to know you guys, and great people. So let's stick together and make it work. Okay. You're the man. So you influenced a lot of people and did a lot of good, and now it's time for us to do whatever we can.
I love you guys. I just had a good crew of people behind me. So took an army.
Okay, guys. The I Hate Insurance podcast, you've just met the insurance preacher. He only showed up a couple of times.
No, I love it. That was awesome. Thanks, guys.
You bet.